Nuzlocke, a classic Pokemon challenge. If you've been following this channel for a few years now, which you probably haven't, you know that I've been attempting randomizer Nuzlocke in Pokemon Platinum, and I can say with certainty, they're absolute torture. For those who don't know, a Nuzlocke is a Pokemon challenge with 3 specific rules. 1. If a Pokemon faints, it's considered dead and can't be used again. 2. You may only catch the first Pokemon you encounter on each route. 3. You must nickname every Pokemon that you catch. And additional rules that I'll be including for this are A. No healing items in battle, and B. I must play on set battle style. And bonus rule, if you lose a battle at any point, the game ends. Now, why do I want to do this? Well, because I've never beaten one. I did 12 episodes of Platinum Randomizer Nuzlocke.
If Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are coming out really soon, I want to do something special. I want to do my first ever Nuzlocke of Pokemon Platinum.
I think now that I've grown as a player, I think it's time to try again. And because Platinum specifically was the game that beat me the most, I think it's right to play Pokemon Brilliant Diamond. My run begins with me, Pokemaster, meeting up with my rival and next door neighbor, Jason. We headed up to Lake Verity to get our starters, and I chose Chimchar. In all of my several playthroughs of the Sinnoh games, and I mean several, I never tried a Chimchar, so I was excited to use it for the first time. We ran down to Sandgem Town to talk to the professor, and I named him Firecracker. I then ran back to the lake to get my encounter, and I caught a little Bidoof that I named Arceus. I then went to 201, and it took an annoying amount of time to get my encounter because I got Bidoof 3 times in a row, and duplicates aren't allowed. But after a little while, I pulled a Starly that I named Penguin. I then proceeded through Route 202, where I got through all the trainers with no issue. I also caught myself a Shinx, which I named Zappicat. Unfortunately, it didn't have Intimidate, but that's okay. After getting myself a Poketch, I had an encounter that I don't think many people know about. By walking west of Jubilife, you can get an Old Rod right before heading towards Route 218, so I fished myself up a Magikarp that I named Aquatius. Right before the rival fight, I went north of Jubilife onto 204 and got myself a Budew named Masquerade. Look at that! I had my perfect Grass, Fire, Water trio, and surely nothing would mess it up. It was now time for the first boss of the game, the rival fight against Jason on 203. He sent out his Starly, and Firecracker took it down quickly. I then switched into Zappicat, who handled his Piplup without a problem. We defeated our first boss. After that, I hunted for an Abra since it was the only encounter I had left on 203 available, which I caught and named Soup. In Orberg Gate, I wanted a Zubat, but got a Geodude that my roommate named Luke named Dwayne. Why'd I say named Luke? Then in the Orberg Mine, I did get my Zubat and named him Nightwing. Now, I said the first real boss was Jason, but it's really Rourke. Rourke has been a run killer in the past, but I was confident going into this battle since I had my Masquerade, who was handling the rock types pretty well so far. It actually soloed the 2 gym trainers earlier, so I think it's fine. The battle begins, and Budew handles both the Geodude and the Onix, taking them down slowly with Absorbs. And then, Rourke sent out Cronidus, who obliterated the Budew in one hit. Masquerade was dead. I set in Chimchar to maybe kill it with Power Up Punch, but it wasn't enough. The Cronidus didn't attack though, so I had to come up with a plan. If it did attack on the next turn, Firecracker would surely be dead. So, unfortunately, I had to switch in Aquatius to tank the headbutt, and he didn't make it. Wow, okay, what next? I started running speed calculations. If Zubat would have been higher level, it could outspeed, but it was unfortunately slower. Starly wouldn't be able to live the hit, and I really didn't want to bring in my Shinx because I knew it had Bulldoze. So in my head, the best move was to bring out Chimchar and pray it used Leer, as it had been using Leer each time a Pokemon switched in. But my call was incorrect, and a critical hit Bulldoze killed Firecracker. At this point, I knew the run might be dead, so I just brought in my Shinx hoping for the best, and fortunately, Cronidus used Leer, so Shinx was able to kill it. What a way to start, am I right? Holy shit! This battle really showed me how hard this challenge would be. This was the first boss, and I was not as prepared as I thought I was. For future gym battles, I need to be more prepared. After this battle, I went north from Orberg and caught a Machop named Crane. We then encountered Team Galactic for the first time, and Zappicat took both of their team members down. I then went through the Ravaged Path, and while I could have gotten an encounter here, the only one that wouldn't have been a duplicate was Psyduck, which would have been awesome, but it only had a 2% encounter rate, which I was not trying to deal with. Then I got a Jirachi, which I decided to box. While yes, using this Jirachi and Mew would be awesome, I don't think it would be fair. Maybe if we're really in a pinch. I took down the Grunts and Floraroma, and my Shinx evolved into a Luxio, which is very cool. I realized I never got my Valley Windworks encounter, and I got a Pachirisu. I don't plan on using it, but in case something happens to Luxio, it's a backup. I fought through Valley Windworks and got to the infamous Mars fight, but thankfully, things went pretty smoothly. Bro, my script says update with details after. I'm not doing that, but nobody died. I caught a Buizel on Route 205 that I named Margarita, based off of the Margaritaville cruise I went on this summer. And it was then time for Eterna Forest, a long trek filled with double battles. And I actually got a pretty cool encounter, a Baneri that I named French. During this time, my Abra evolved into Kadabra, which is pretty cool. I said goodbye to Cheryl and quickly moved on from her when we met Cynthia. She gave us cut, and it was now time for the gym. Gardenia starts by sending out Cherubi, who Penguin O-code. She then sent out Turtwig, who annoyingly set up Reflect, causing my moves to do half damage. I got the Turtwig down to red, but it healed back up with a super potion. I knocked it out on the next turn though. Roserade then came in, paralyzing my Staravia. I kept it in, and Roserade's Grass Knot did just about half. I got fully paralyzed that turn, so I couldn't hit it back. I decided to switch to Zubat, since a Grass Knot would be 4 times resisted. Zubat used Poison Fang, which didn't do a lot, but got Roserade under half, making it use its Citrus Berry. I knew Zubat would live another hit, so I kept it in. Roserade went for Stun Spore though, paralyzing Zubat. On the next turn, Roserade used Petal Blizzard, and Zubat held on and survived on 6 HP. Knowing it would die, I switched Zubat to Luxio, since it could tank a Petal Blizzard. Except, on the next turn, Roserade didn't use Petal Blizzard, it used Grass Knot, which knocked out Luxio. I switched in Kadabra, and Roserade paralyzed it. Funnily enough, paralyzing it back was synchronized, but Kadabra was able to finish it off with Confusion. I got my second badge, but lost my Zappy Cat. Luxio was by far my strongest team member, so this really sucked. Not having an Electric type in Sinnoh is really difficult, so I begrudgingly brought Pachirisu onto the team. And then I immediately replaced it with a Ghastly I caught from the old Chateau. I named this Pokemon Dad, after my dad's favorite Pokemon line. It was then time for the next Eterna boss battle, Jupiter, and this fight was rough. The battle started with Penguin, taking out her Zubat, but unfortunately getting poisoned. Then came her Skuntank, who used Flamethrower to almost kill Penguin. Petrified, I switched into Buizel to tank another Flamethrower. I tried taking it down with Buizel, but it was barely doing any damage. Margarita was then poisoned, and I realized I would have to switch, as poison damage plus another Flamethrower would take him down. I brought in Crane, who tanked a Snarl. He then tanked a Flamethrower but got burned. This did 2 things. 1, made me shit my pants, and 2, activated Machop's Guts ability, boosting its power when it has a status condition. It was then able to finish off Skuntank with Revenge, but Skuntank's Aftermath almost killed him, and we almost lost Crane. After that, we got our bike and headed south down the cycling road. In Wayward Cave, I was able to find a Bronzong we named Steely Dan. And incredibly unfortunately, we failed our Ponyta encounter on 206. This is bad because Ponyta was supposed to be my Fire-type replacement for Chimchar. Now I don't know what I'm gonna do. Going through Mount Coronet, not a single Pokemon spawned, so I'll save that encounter for a higher level. When we got to Route 208, Nightwing evolved into Golbat, finally making it useful. We also caught a Psyduck that Jason, real Jason, not rival Jason, named Daisy. Now for a decently easy boss battle, our fight against Jason in Hearthome City. Staravia easily took down Jason Starly, and I brought in Golbat to take down his Prinplup. Prinplup barely survived though, and Golbat almost got killed by a Bubble Beam. I then switched from Golbat to Buizel to tank another Bubble Beam as the Prinplup died to its poison. I then brought in Kadabra to take down his Roselia and switched in Crane for Ponyta, winning us the battle. After this, we headed east to Route 209, where I had no available encounters, and then to the Lost Tower, where my 20% encounter Murkrow did not show up either. I arrived in Salacion Town, and had the idea to put my Psyduck and my Baneri in the daycare, just in case I needed higher level Pokemon replacements later. I went into the ruins and unfortunately failed my unknown encounter, but it was okay, since I have Kadabra as my Psychic type. Shortly after that, I got my 210 encounter, and luckily enough, it was another Ponyta, which I caught and named Redemption. On Route 215, I failed my encounter with the Kricketune, but after the result of the battle, my Ghastly evolved into Haunter. Now time for Hell! The double battle right at the end of Route 215 is infamous. I've seen many players lose Pokemon here, so I knew I needed to lock in. Except before this battle, I boxed my Staravia as it was getting too close to the Nuzlocke level cap. This was a grave mistake. The battle started with their Monferno and Glameow versus my Kadabra and Buizel. I selected Confusion with Kadabra and Aqua Jet with Buizel, both targeting the Monferno, ensuring it would be knocked out. The Monferno went down, but Glameow did massive damage with Fury Swipes, getting lucky and hitting all 5 into Buizel. I thought this was bad, but then Ace Trainer Dennis sent out Gyarados. Gyarados was able to knock out Kadabra with Waterfall. This was really unfortunate. The next gym is fighting type, and I was hoping to sweep most of it with an Alakazam, but we have to try and move on. I brought in Crane as a replacement, and Glameow went for Aerial Ace, getting Machoke into low health, and history quickly repeated itself, as Crane was killed by Gyarados' Waterfall. Are you kidding me? Okay, so we lost our 2 best team members. What do we do from here? I brought in Crobat, who Poison Fanged Glameow, while Haunter took down the Gyarados. On the next turn, Glameow went down, and he brought out Kadabra, which terrified me. I didn't know whether Kadabra or Haunter was faster, because one of the two was definitely knocking out the other. I calculated the speeds though, and Dad was lucky enough to be able to outspeed and OHKO the Kadabra. The battle was over, and I headed into Veilstone. This was the most devastating battle so far, as we lost our 2 most important team members. I quickly brought Staravia back and got ready for the gym. Also, Weasel evolved into Floatzel as a result of this double battle. She started the fight by sending out Meditite, while I sent out Penguin, who took down Meditite in one hit with an Aerial Ace. Next, she brought out Machoke, which I knew unfortunately had Rock Tomb, which would definitely kill either of my flying types. So, I switched to Floatzel, and my prediction was correct. On the next turn, I went for Water Gun, which it did about a quarter, while the Machoke used Low Sweep, putting Margarita in the red. I then predicted he would Low Sweep again, so I brought in Nightwing for a 4 times resistance. I guessed correctly, and on the next turn, used Air Slash, which the Machoke literally must have lived on 1 HP. It of course fired back with Rock Tomb, which actually didn't kill, only doing a little bit more than half. The problem though, is that this was Golbat's second speed drop, and I didn't know if it would outspeed the Machoke, so I had to make a switch. There were no real safe options, except, you guys remember Steely Dan? Dan came in, but the worst actually happened. Maylene healed Machoke back to full, undoing all of my work. Next turn, Steely Dan's Confusion did barely anything, and Machoke quickly killed it. At this point, I realized damage was the priority, and made the tough call of bringing in Nightwing. Nightwing was able to get Machoke into the red before going down to Rock Tomb. On the next turn, Floatzel came in and finished the job with Aqua Jet. Losing Nightwing was rough, as Crobat is one of my all-time favorites, but now it's dead. But don't you worry, this battle is anything but over, as Maylene still has a Lucario in the back. Right away, I switched in Haunter, knowing Maylene would go for Drain Punch rather than Metal Claw on a water type. I made a smart call and used Confuse Ray, giving me more of a chance against this crazy strong Pokemon. He went for Screech though, which harshly lowered Haunter's defense. Knowing he'd go for Metal Claw, I brought out Redemption. The Metal Claw still did a bit less than half though, which is more than I thought. On the next turn, Lucario thankfully hurt itself in its confusion, while Ponyta used Flame Charge, getting Lucario into the yellow. This gave Ponyta a speed boost, which was enough to let Ponyta outspeed, but it wasn't strong enough for the KO. Lucario snapped out of its confusion, killed Ponyta, and recovered to about 25% with Drain Punch. Okay, so we're down 3 guys. This is not good. So next, I brought in Penguin, who was able to get Lucario back into the red. Lucario went for Drain Punch again, getting to a bit less than half. I considered Double Team for a cheap luck-based win, but I realized I could switch back to Haunter and prevent more damage. On the following turn, Lucario didn't go for Metal Claw, instead going for Screech, which allowed me to use Hex and knock out the Lucario, winning me the battle. And after losing 5 Pokemon in 1 session of gameplay, I decided to call it for a few days. And now it's over a week later. I took a break, had midterms, grew out a full beard, and am now back. My session started by doing the double battle with Dawn against the Galactic Grunt, which was very uneventful. After this, I got Fly, which finally allowed me to go back and pick up my Pokemon from the daycare, and wait, what? There's an egg? Psyduck and Baneri are in the same egg group? So I did not know that, but I thought it'd be funny to hatch the egg and see if it'd be shiny, and it was not. I went down to the Ruined Maniac's cave and luckily caught a 5% Hippopotas after only 4 attempts. I named it Elton John. I then immediately got my next encounter and it was Stunky, which I named Benjamin because Benjamins are gross. And then on Route 214, I caught a Girafarig that I named Emil, and then I caught a Blue Shellos and named her Blue. Next up was the Great Marsh, where I failed my Wooper encounter unfortunately. I walked around until my steps ran out just for the small chance of finding a shiny. Oh, also, last time I played a Sinnoh game, this happened. I then prepared for my fight against Jason, but realized this is Diamond, not Platinum, and the fight is after the gym. I knew this gym would be difficult, as I didn't have an electric or grass type to take down Wake's water types. So my plan was to grind up Girafarig and give it 2 important TMs, Shockwave and Grass Knot. Along the way of grinding, Staravia evolved into Staraptor, which is one of my favorite Pokemon ever. Before the gym, I replaced Elton John, as I didn't want my ground type to get murdered. It was then time for the fight against Crasher Wake. He led with Gyarados, which is exactly why I led with Emil. Now let me just say, before this battle, I ran several speed calculations and was confident that Girafarig would outspeed. It didn't, and Gyarados used Crunch, doing more than half and dropping my defense. This was not good. I healed up with my Citrus Berry, and then retaliated with Shockwave, which almost knocked out the Gyarados, but it wasn't enough. Knowing I would die, I switched to Margarita, where Gyarados' Crunch did a little less than half. On the next turn, I went for Aqua Jet to quickly finish it off, but Wake used a potion, unfortunately healing him back up. Margarita and Gyarados then went bite for bite, with Margarita coming out on top. He then brought in Quagsire, and I brought in Dad to levitate and dodge his Mud Slap. He then took down the Quagsire in 2 turns. Wake then sent out Floatzel, who I knew had Bite. I then switched out Haunter, bringing in Blue. Floatzel's Bite then did more than half, and knowing I didn't have any other options, I decided to sacrifice Blue. I then safely brought in Penguin, who KO'd the Floatzel in 1 hit with Fly. Wake was done. I brought Elton John back to replace the fallen Shellos, got ready for my next big fight with Jason. The fight was pretty easy compared to the last. My Staraptor completely obliterated this Starly. He then sent out Prinplup and I used Fly, which got him into the red. This was bad though, because this activated Prinplup's Torrent ability, boosting his water moves. His Bubble Beam did a bit more than half, but my Citrus Berry got me back up. Penguin then took down the real Penguin with a quick attack. He then sent out Ponyta, and I switched into Floatzel, who handled him quickly. And then back to Staraptor to take down Roselia. Jason went down without much issue. It was then time for the long trek to Celestic Town, which while not being really hard, had a lot of trainer battles. At the end of the route, I picked and replanted another Citrus Berry, as I needed to start farming for more of those. I gave Grandma her charm and met Cyrus before the real grind began, evolving Haunter into Gengar. So something I learned is that while I have several Pokemon friends, none of them have BDSP. So I had to transfer my Haunter to Scarlet through home, trade there, and then trade back. So I put Haunter into my box, went into home, read the new terms and conditions, and Haunter was not there. So I go back into Brilliant Diamond, and yeah, he was just sitting there in my party. So I put him in my box again and went back into home again, and all was well, he was there. I then put him into Scarlet, connected with my roommate Luke, and made our trade. As a little gift, I gave him my Roaring Moon, but Gengar was finally in my hands, after 20 whole minutes. It was then immediately time for my fight against Fantina, which was very, very scary. She sent out Drifblim, and I sent out Emil, as I wanted to use Shockwave to get rid of the Drifblim quickly. This wasn't the case though, as Drifblim outsped and used Fly. So on the next turn, instead of using Shockwave, I used Assurance, which does double damage if you've already been hit in a turn. Yeah, no. Hi, while script writing, I actually just read that Assurance doesn't work that way. It's if the target took damage already, it does double, so now I just feel dumb. Drifblim then used Will-O-Wisp, burning Girafarig. Another Fly connected, putting him in the red, as Shockwave put Drifblim on literally 1 HP. So unfortunately, I made the decision to let Emil die so my next switch would be safe. Margarita came out, attempting an Aqua Jet KO, but Fantina healed it up. Margarita knocked it out on the next turn with a Bite though, taking a bit of damage from Aftermath. Her Gengar then came out, and she unfortunately predicted my Bite, using a Colbur Berry to block the super effective dark damage. Bite did about a third, and then Gengar used Confuse Ray, but Floatzel was still able to KO with Bite on the next turn. She then brought out Mismagius, and I switched in Penjamin, who used Toxic. Penjamin then wanted to go for a Bite, but was obliterated by Dazzling Gleam. Penjamin was no more. I then made the call to bring in Staraptor, who finished off the Mismagius with Fly. Fantina went down easy, but we still had some bad deaths. Say goodbye to Penjamin and Emil, members we literally just got. To fill gaps, I brought back Dwayne the Geodude and Arceus the B-Barrel, and we made our way to Canalave. When we got there, it was time for another big fight right away. Another rival fight with Jason. He sent out a freshly evolved Staravia, and I brought out Gengar Dad. What was annoying is that Staravia's Intimidate cut Gengar's already poor attack, and his only non-ghost move was physical. So we made a switch to Dwayne the Geodude, tanking a flying move. Dwayne then did feeble damage over a few turns, but it actually managed to live on 3, so I decided to let him stay and switch to B-Barrel. He went for Rollout, but it wasn't enough to KO, and Staravia killed him. Oh Arceus, you were our first encounter, always kind of in the background, but I knew you were watching over us. Staraptor finished his Staravia, and also quickly handled Heracross and Ponyta. He then brought out Prinplup, and Staravia got him to about a quarter with Fly before getting her attack lowered with Charm. Penguin was still able to clean up, take out both Prinplup and his Roselia, winning us the battle. I replaced Arceus with Daisy the Psyduck, and we headed to Iron Island. We teamed up with Riley and headed to the basement. We got our encounter. 2 Steelixes. The battle progressed to where only 1 Steelix was left and it was at low HP and paralyzed. Now, I ran the calculator, and this gave Steelix about a 30% catch rate in Great Balls. But this bitch took so many Great Balls, and the worst part, he wiped out half our team. Elton John, Daisy, and Dwayne all died to this fuck-ass Steelix. Let's also mention that this Steelix got paralyzed once over at least 10 turns. And yes, of course, I caught it, and I named it Satan. This, really sucked. Elton and Dwayne were supposed to be my answers to Byron, and they were just gone. Yeah, actually terrible. Fucking terrible. So yeah, time for Byron. Before this segment begins, I just want to say that this may be one of the craziest Pokemon battles I've ever had in a playthrough. I'll also quickly say that I brought Rice the Pachirisu and French the Baneri back on the team, solely to be there for emergencies. Let's talk about my plan. I knew his first Pokemon was a Bronzor that I was confident Floatzel could kill in 2 turns with Bite. I wanted to use Floatzel specifically as Bronzor had Levitate, and I couldn't use Satan's ground attacks. Byron's Steelix also had Thunderfang, which I knew from trainer battles would only do about half to Floatzel, so I felt confident in this early battle plan. The part I missed, however, is that Bronzor had Trick Room, which would completely flip how this game would be played. Now, my team is on defense, as my whole squad was definitely faster, except maybe my Steelix, as it was a lower level than his. After Bronzor used Trick Room, it obviously moved first on the next turn, and used Sandstorm, which would later give his Rock-typed Bastiodon a special defense boost, as well as doing chip damage to my side until it goes away. Margarita's Bite took down the Bronzong, and he brought out his own Steelix, which started to give me war flashbacks. Because of the Trick Room, Steelix moved first and used Earthquake, which did way too much damage to Floatzel. Floatzel fired back with Waterfall, doing just about half. Knowing I had to protect Floatzel and not having any options, I brought in Rice the Pachirisu to die in an Earthquake. I then brought out my own Steelix, and I assumed it would be slower due to being lower level, but it was not. Their Steelix's Earthquake did more than half to mine, while my Sand Tomb did genuinely nothing. Importantly though, Trick Room ended on this turn, meaning Speed would go back to normal. Not wanting her to die, I switched Steelix to Baneri. I expected him to die, but Byron used a full restore. Baneri was then able to use Priority Baby Doll Eyes, lowering his attack. Best part, Steelix's Gyro Ball didn't do enough to KO, and Baneri got to use Baby Doll Eyes again before fainting. A true hero. I brought out Dad, who used Hex, doing about half. Steelix then set up another Sandstorm, which would give Bastiodon that boost I mentioned. Gengar cleaned up the Steelix, and out it came. Bastiodon is a brutally strong Pokemon. Not damage-wise, but it just doesn't die. This Bastiodon also came packed with Iron Defense, Thunderbolt, and a Citrus Berry. Most dangerous was it had Stone Edge, a stab, 100 base power attack, which would totally OHKO anything I had. So yeah, I thought this was it for Gengar right here, and I really considered sacking it. I really didn't know what I was going to do, but let's watch one of the best Pokemon performances I've ever seen. Gengar uses Confuse Ray, as I thought that would be a helpful tool for the rest of the battle. Bastiodon then goes for Stone Edge, and while it got through the confusion, Stone Edge missed. Now seeing an opportunity, Dad used Hex, doing about a quarter. This was okay though, as I knew it was only because of the Sandstorm, which was almost about to end. This turn, Bastiodon didn't attack, it went for Iron Defense, which would be scary for the rest of my team, but not my special attacking Gengar. Gengar went for another Hex, getting Bastiodon to about half. And this time, Bastiodon hurt itself in its confusion, which is exactly what we needed. The Sandstorm subsided. Gengar used another Hex, getting Bastiodon into the red, but it healed up with its Citrus Berry. Bastiodon snapped out of its confusion and went for Stone Edge, and it hit. But shockingly, the Stone Edge only did half damage, putting Gengar in the yellow. And this absolute legend Gengar used its Curse Body ability to get rid of the Stone Edge, and he then heals back into the green with a Citrus Berry. I go for another Hex, which gets Bastiodon oh so close to dying. It uses Flash Cannon, which gets Gengar to yellow. On the next turn, of course Byron heals, but Gengar uses Hex, which puts him at 2/3. Next turn, Gengar uses Hex again, getting him to 1/3. At this point, I knew Gengar was about to go down. But what an incredible performance we just watched. Turn after turn with this Bastiodon, and nothing slowed him down. The Flash Cannon came out and... wait. No way. Gengar lived on 3 HP. And staring at that little health bar, I knew one more Hex would be enough. Bastiodon fell, and Dad won the battle.
Guys, I don't really think, like, the video reaction I just gave can accurately reflect the emotions that we just went through in that battle, the Byron battle. So, like, my Gengar is the GOAT. It's now, like, 1:30 in the morning. I'm so tired. What's this? What song is this? Is the, Count on Me by Bruno Mars.
That was absolutely the most climactic battle I've ever had. We were shaking watching it. And after this, yeah, it was time to go to bed. After 5 hours of playing, I lost 9 Pokemon. Not a good record. At this point, I added Luke the Jirachi to the team. I didn't plan on using it, but it was a last resort if necessary. But now, I got to take a nice rest. And a bomb went off. So, I headed to Lake Valor to check it out, and fought against Galactic leader Saturn. Saturn had a Kadabra, a Bronzor, and a Toxicroak, and Margarita was able to take the first 2 down cleanly. When Toxicroak came out, Margarita used Dig, almost knocking it out, but Toxicroak snapped back with Toxic plus a Revenge, putting her in the red. Not wanting to risk anything, I switched to Dad, predicting another Revenge, and took him down. On Route 219, I encountered a Tentacool, which I unfortunately failed, but I then caught a Wingull on 220 who I named Gulliver, who evolved pretty shortly after. On 221, I was blessed with a second attempt at a Tentacool, who I caught and named Trevor, though I opted to keep Pelipper. I then went to Lake Verity to help Dawn fight another Galactic leader, Marsh. The battle started with her Golbat and my Staraptor, who easily took it down with a Fly and an Aerial Ace. She then sent in her Perugly, and Penguin used Fly, getting her into the red, but it healed back up with its Citrus Berry. An Aerial Ace finished it off on the next turn. She then brought in a Bronzong, and I switched off to Margarita, who then got confused and hit itself on the next turn. On the next turn, Margarita managed to use Bite, flinching the Bronzor. Because of the defense drops, I switched into Gengar, who was able to take the Bronzor down with Hex, which is special. It was then time for the climb, the trek from the ground all the way up to Snow Point City. On Route 211, I caught a Metatite and named it Rocky. On Route 216, I caught a Snover that I named Willow. And on Route 217, I caught a Sneasel that I named Whiplash. Now, while Weavile is one of my favorite Pokemon ever, I think I prefer Willow for this. It takes Sneasel way too long to evolve, not being able to get the Evolution Stone until the Victory Road. I also thought that Willow would be helpful during the Volkner battle later on, as my team really struggles against electric types. At this point, I made it to Snow Point City, taking down most of the trainers along the way. Outside of Lake Acuity, I had to search for my only available encounter, a 10% Noctowl. But I eventually got it and named it Aaron, after Aaron Judge, since we were watching the Yankee Red Sox wildcard game. Yes, that's how long this video has taken. And now, for Candace's gym. Candace's battle began with her Snover versus my Penguin, who took it down with an Aerial Ace. She then weirdly sent out her Metacham instead of her Sneasel, who Staraptor also took down in one hit. She then sent out Sneasel, and yeah, Penguin took it down with a Fly. And then Penguin took down a Bombsnow with Fly. So, this was the easiest gym battle yet. It's pretty funny how the entire ice gym was cleared with a single flying type. I quickly ran to Lake Acuity to watch Jason get beat up, but I knew this is where his character arc would begin. So this next hour of content was taking down the Galactic warehouse and then the building, and all of these fights went down without a problem. So we walked into the office and got ready to fight the Team Galactic leader, Cyrus. The battle started with his Murkrow against my Margarita, who took it down with Waterfall. He then sent out his Golbat, who survived Margarita's attack and poisoned her in return. She then took Golbat down with an Aqua Jet. He sent off his closer, Sneasel, and Margarita barely didn't KO it with Waterfall. The Sneasel then healed up with its Citrus Berry and slowed down Margarita with an Icy Wind. Scared that I'd get outsped, I switched into Satan and cleaned up with Rock Slide. Cyrus gives us the Master Ball, and we head to the next room, where Saturn is waiting for us. He sends out his Kadabra, and I bring in Margarita, who took it down with Bite. In came Bronzor, and Bite got it down to a quarter, as he confuses Margarita. She hit herself in her confusion 2 turns in a row, and Bronzor used Extra Sensory, getting Margarita under half health. I switched to Penguin, who took down Bronzor using Fly. Aerial Ace then one-shot his Toxicroak, and the battle was over. It is now time for the climax. 3 battles in a row. The double battle, the Cyrus fight, and Dialga. But first, Over a half hour of just Mount Coronet and Galactic battles. But now, back to what I was talking about. We reached the peak and Cyrus summoned Dialga using the red chain. We charged forward, seeing both Mars and Jupiter, and we got ready to fight. But just then, Jason, completing his character arc, swoops in to help us fight. The battle started with Mars and Jupiter's 2 Bronzongs against Margarita and Jason's Munchlax. I used Bite on one of them, getting it to about a quarter. The Bronzors then moved next, setting up Light Screen and using Confuse Ray on Margarita. The Munchlax used a bite of his own though on the other Bronzor, doing only about a quarter. On the next turn, Margarita hit herself in confusion, and then both Bronzors used Payback on her. Munchlax then used Bite on the weakened Bronzong, knocking it out. They then sent out Golbat, and I decided to switch in Satan, who actually took a significant amount of damage from Golbat's Giga Drain. Munchlax's Bite got the remaining Bronzong down to less than half. Golbat targeted the Munchlax with a Sludge Bomb, and Satan's Rock Slide unfortunately only did about a quarter to Golbat, despite it being super effective. On the next turn, the Golbat targeted Munchlax again, this time successfully poisoning it. Satan used Rock Slide again, and the Golbat sadly dodged it. Munchlax then hurt itself in its confusion and took the poison damage, getting it to the red. On the following turn, Munchlax went down, and Satan's Rock Slide got them both to low HP. Jason brought in his Ponyta and knocked out the Bronzor, but the Golbat got another poison on Ponyta. Steelix was able to kill it with Rock Slide. Since they both fainted, Jupiter sent out Skuntank and Mars sent out Purugly. Scared of Skuntank's Flamethrower, I switched into Margarita, who tanked the hit and got to about half. Purugly used Dig, and not wanting to take more damage, I switched to Staraptor. But despite that, the Purugly's Dig targeted the Ponyta, and it sadly perished. The Skuntank then poisoned Staraptor with Poison Gas, but due to affection, she immediately got rid of it, which was great. Jason then sent out his own Staraptor, getting another helpful Intimidate. Penguin used Fly, while Purugly body slammed Jason's, unfortunately paralyzing it. Staraptor's Fly came out, but it only got Skuntank into the red. It then ate a Citrus Berry, getting up to about a third. Purugly used Body Slam again, this time on my Staraptor, and got the Paralyze again. Skuntank tried to use Poison Gas again, but since we were both already paralyzed, it failed. Jason's Staraptor used Close Combat, getting Purugly down to red, but it also healed back up with a Citrus Berry. On the next turn, Purugly switched out, which I didn't even know was possible, into Golbat, who tanked another Close Combat. Penguin's Aerial Ace took down the Skuntank, but she took a lot of damage from Aftermath. Jason's Staraptor got fully paralyzed, while my Staraptor went up to use Fly. The Golbat lived, but targeted Jason's Staraptor, so we were able to clean up on the following turn. Purugly was then easily taken out by Jason's Staraptor's Close Combat. We had defeated Jupiter and Mars. Cyrus sent out his Honchkrow, while I sent out Margarita. She used Waterfall, doing more than half, while the Honchkrow oddly used Defog. Margarita took him down on the next turn. He then sent out his Gyarados, who intimidated Margarita. I decided to stay in and go for Bite, but it barely did any damage. The Gyarados returned with an Earthquake, doing a bit less than half, but way too much for comfort. Predicting a second Earthquake, I switched to Penguin, but had to be wary of Gyarados' Ice Fang. Staraptor used Fly, but it didn't do enough, leaving Gyarados in the red. The Gyarados then went for Ice Fang, but thankfully it didn't do too much due to Penguin's Intimidate. I went for Aerial Ace to quickly get rid of Gyarados, but Cyrus used a full restore, meaning my Aerial Ace wasn't enough. Penguin then went for Fly, and it knocked down the Gyarados. Out came Crobat, who outsped and used Cross Poison, which thankfully didn't crit or poison, but it did do a lot. Fly was able to take it down as well. He then sent out his final Pokemon, Weavile, and while Fly definitely would have KO'd, I switched to be safe. I brought out Satan, and his move didn't do much damage. Looking at Weavile's attacks, I predicted that it would go for Dig, which would allow me to essentially trap the Weavile with my own Dig on the same turn. I used the same strategy 3 times, and eventually, the Weavile went down. Cyrus was defeated. I stepped up, looked Dialga in the eyes as the world fell apart in the background, and then, with the press of a button, he was mine. I added Big Steve to the team as we prepared to face Volkner. On Route 222, I could not find a single encounter despite there being some, and I took down all the trainers I saw. This team really struggles with electric types, 2 of my best 3 are weak to it, so I knew we'd have to get pretty lucky here to not have any deaths. I fought through all of the trainers in the gym and got ready for Volkner. This was it, the final gym battle. Volkner sent out Raichu, while I sent out Big Steve the Dialga. On the first turn, the Raichu outsped and used Volt Switch, bringing in Ambipom. Dialga used Flamethrower, which got it down to a quarter. The Ambipom then used Fake Out, which stopped us for a turn, and outsped us on the following. getting Dialga to about 2/3. Dialga finished it off with Flash Cannon. He sent out Octillery, who I knew could do some decent damage, so I opted for an OHKO with Roar of Time, having to take a turn of recoil after. On that turn, Volkner brought out Raichu, who Volt switched again into Luxray. The Luxray outsped, getting Dialga down to low yellow. Dialga then used Roar of Time again, destroying the Luxray. Raichu came back out, using Charge Beam to do damage to Dialga, getting a special attack boost. On the following turn, I decided to switch to Willow the Abomasnow, who took a bit from the boosted Volt switch. On the next turn, Raichu used Surf, which scarily got Willow below half. But Willow used the move I prepared specifically for this fight, Bulldoze, which actually didn't do that much damage since Raichu had the ground weakening Shuckaberry. Risking Willow's life, I kept her in, hoping one more Bulldoze would be enough, but it wasn't. The Raichu lived on genuinely 1 HP. However, Abomasnow has a secret weapon, Hail. Raichu fell to the Hail, securing Willow and our team victory. We had secured all 8 gym badges, and it was time for the end game. I made my way towards Victory Road and started the trek north. On Route 223, I caught a Mantike named Manbun, the final encounter of the Nuzlocke. After clearing all of the trainers, I made it to the Pokemon Center. But before going through the Victory Road, I decided to do a few quick things. Firstly, I picked up a Thunderbolt TM behind the Valley Windworks, and went for the most important item for the remainder of the run, the Lucky Egg. In the top left of the Underground, you can pick up a Lucky Egg item that doubles how much experience you get from battle, which helps tremendously with grinding. Also, before I dive into the next segment, while in the Underground, I did a single excavation and found this statue, which brought up some bad flashbacks. So, I traversed through the Victory Road with little issue, except one battle towards the end. Veteran Clayton. Clayton sent out his Staraptor, and I sent out Margarita. I go for Waterfall, which does about half, and Staraptor uses Endeavor, which put me at 57 HP. On the next turn, Staraptor uses Quick Attack, and holy shit, we almost lost Margarita. Waterfall gets the KO, and I switched to Willow to take down Hippowdon. Besides this fight, the rest of the Victory Road was pretty easy. I reached the Pokemon League, making sure to stay clear of Jason's rival fight. And now, it was time to get ready. 6 battles. Each could be run killers. The Jason rival battle, Aaron, Bertha, Flint, Lucian, and of course, Cynthia. Now, something special about the BDSP Pokemon League is that it's considered probably the hardest league in any Pokemon game. All the trainers have competitively perfect Pokemon, items, and well thought out strategies, on top of being able to use healing items. If we were going to win, we would need to be prepared. And the first part of that preparation was grinding. I don't have the exact amount of time, but we can just say from about 11 p.m. to 2 a.m., I grinded. I found that the best place to get experience was in the Grand Underground, and the Pokemon that gave the most were either Pokemon that don't evolve or are evolved. Right in the center of the Underground, there's a location known as Star Gleam Cave that features Mr. Mime, Kadabra, and Girafarig. So what did I do? I killed so many Mr. Mimes, Kadabras, and Girafarigs, and after several hours, the team was leveled up. I went to bed, but something felt wrong. I didn't feel ready. I woke up the next day with a busy day ahead of me, but all that was on my mind was the team. I, no joke, had dreams about running the Elite Four and failing this challenge, but I went about my day as normal, and at night, did my preparations. So first, I went through every single one of the 32 Pokemon I'm about to fight, and figured out the best team member and best moves to use for each one. I then made some final alterations to the team. I gave Gengar the Thunderbolt TM I grabbed, and gave everyone their items. So, let's go over every member on the team. First, we have Margarita the Floatzel. Margarita is holding the Razor Claw to boost its critical hit ratio, and its biggest asset is its high speed and solid attack. The final moveset of Margarita is Dig, Bite, Waterfall, and Aqua Jet. Margarita has been an all-star member of the team, all the way since we met it back on Route 205. Margarita has helped us with so many battles, including all of the Galactic battles and the majority of the Victory Road. Next, we have Big Steve the Dialga. Big Steve holds the Adamant Orb to boost its Dragon and Steel moves. Big Steve's high special attack is its best asset, allowing for hopefully a lot of one-hit KOs. Steve's final moveset is Power Gem, Flamethrower, Flash Cannon, and Roar of Time. While being the newest member on the team, Big Steve has been incredible, helping us take down Volkner. After that, we have Dad the Gengar. Dad holds the Wise Glasses to boost all of his special moves. Gengar's main role is to be a fast special sweeper, hopefully being able to outspeed most things. His final moveset is Confuse Ray, Shadow Ball, Thunderbolt, and Dark Pulse. Dad's ability Curse Body also has the chance to disable opposing Pokemon's threatening moves. Gengar has been incredibly helpful in certain situations, notably the crazy 1v1 he had against Bastiodon in the Byron battle. I'm also so happy to finally have been able to use a Gengar, as it's obviously been a big part of my life for the past several years. Up next, we have Penguin the Staraptor. Penguin holds the wide lens to raise Fly's accuracy from 90 to 99, which is far more reliable. Staraptor's sky-high attack and great speed stats are what make it powerful. Staraptor's final moveset is Close Combat, Fly, Quick Attack, and Aerial Ace. Penguin's ability is also really impactful, that being Intimidate, which lowers the opposing Pokemon's attack stats. Penguin has been with us genuinely since the beginning. She's basically my starter. Staraptor is one of my favorite Pokemon ever, and using it again has been so great. Penguin helped us defeat Gardenia, Wake, Candace, and most of the Jason battles. Penultimately, we have Willow the Abomasnow. Willow holds the Zoom Lens, which gives her an accuracy boost when she's moving slower than the opponent. She has a pretty solid attack stat to work with too. Willow's moveset is Ice Shard, Razor Leaf, Ice Punch, and Bulldoze. One issue with Abomasnow is her ability Snow Warning, which sets up the hail. This could be a liability for the rest of the team, so we need to know the proper time to bring her in. Willow hasn't done much up to this point, but she did help us secure a win against Volkner. Finally, we have Satan the Steelix. Satan holds the Soft Sand to boost her ground-type moves by 10%. Satan's disgusting defense stat means it takes physical attacks really well, but risky when dealing with special attacks. Her Sturdy ability also allows her to live on 1 HP if taking a hit at full health. Also, Satan being a ground type makes it immune to electric attacks, which is very important for switches when 2 of my main team members are flying in water type. Satan's final set is Rock Slide, Dig, Sand Tomb, and Stealth Rock. Now obviously, Satan was named Satan for a reason, killing 3 of our team members when we tried to catch her. But she redeemed herself through this journey, being essential in both Cyrus battles. Before we start, there's one last thing I wanted to do. I put this off until the end of the run. As a thank you to the team, and for one last form of connection, I made each member of the team ball seals using the stickers I've collected along the way. So, there's no beating around the bush anymore. It's time. Let's start the final battles of the Nuzlocke. He led with Staraptor, and I led with Big Steve. He used Power Gem, which doesn't knock it out due to its Focus Sash. Staraptor snapped back with Close Combat, doing about a third, which is very scary. One more Power Gem from Dialga finishes it off, and Jason brought out Snorlax. Scared of a high horsepower, I made a prediction and switched to Penguin, who gets off an Intimidate. Unfortunately, I guessed wrong, and Snorlax went for Yawn, making Staraptor drowsy. Wanting to avoid sleep, I switched to Margarita, who tanked a Covet. Margarita used Waterfall, getting Snorlax to the yellow, and Affection dodged a high horsepower. I went for Waterfall again, but Jason made a prediction and switched to Empoleon. Scared of Grass Knot, I made a switch into Dialga, who tanked the hit. With 2 flamethrowers, Empoleon went down. Snorlax came back out, and Dialga knocked it down with a Flash Cannon. He brought out Roserade, and Dialga's flamethrower took it down. Then he brought in Heracross, and immediately switched it out for Rapidash, who got a boost from the Flash Fire. But Dialga's Power Gem took it down quickly. To end it off, the Heracross came back out, and a flamethrower finished it off. Jason was done. 5 battles left to go. Aaron led with Dustox, and I led with Penguin. Penguin went for Fly, heading into the air, and the Dustox used Toxic, which hit even though he's not on the field. The Fly knocked it out, but now we have to deal with Toxic. He brought out Heracross, and I opted for Aerial Ace over Fly due to its 4 times weakness. It thankfully knocked it out, and Penguin took 1 more hit of Toxic damage. Not wanting to fall to something as stupid as Poison, I switched in Big Steve, when he brought out Beautifly, who went for a Quiver Dance. On the next turn, it Quiver Danced again, and despite the doubled special defense, a Flamethrower still got the KO. He then brought in Vespiquen, who went down to a Flamethrower as well. Lastly, Drapion came out, and I considered switching to a Drapion's Earthquake, but I stayed in. Dialga's Flash Cannon knocked it out. Aaron had been defeated, and no Pokemon were lost. 4 battles left. She led with Quagsire, and I led with Penguin. Penguin went for Fly, while Quagsire used Surf, which missed. Fly hit, but it did not do a lot of damage. Mirroring the last battle, Quagsire used Toxic, poisoning Penguin. Annoyingly, the Quagsire then got a bit of healing from its leftovers. Penguin went for another Fly, but Quagsire switched into Golem. The Fly came out, doing about a quarter, but Golem snapped back with Stone Edge. Luckily though, Penguin Affection dodged it. I switched out and brought in Margarita, who also Affection dodged the Stone Edge. Because of Penguin's Fly, we no longer had to worry about Golem's Sturdy. Margarita finished it off with Waterfall. Out came Sudowoodo, and I went for Waterfall again. Bertha predicted this though, and brought in Quagsire, who unfortunately healed back up with Water Absorb. I kept Margarita in and went for Bite. which thankfully landed a crit, but it didn't even get it under half. Quagsire snapped back with Earthquake, which did way too much damage. I went for another bite, which put it in the yellow, and we luckily got a flinch. I went for bite again, which unfortunately put Quagsire at a low red. We did flinch again though, but because it was in red health, Bertha used a full restore. I just kept biting and hoping for flinches, and luckily we got another one. 3 flinches in a row, by the way, is not supposed to happen. After a few more turns, it went for Earthquake again, which scared me into switching. I brought in Willow, who tanked the Earthquake well. Willow went for Razor Leaf, which thankfully knocked it out. She brought in Pseudo Wudo, and I didn't know what to do. I knew Pseudo Wudo had Head Smash and Low Kick, so I didn't know whether I should go for the kill or a switch. I decided to switch though, and brought in Big Steve, hoping it was Head Smash over Low Kick. I was correct, but it still did about 50 damage. Flash Cannon from Steve took it down. Whiscash then came in, which had Bulldoze, but it scarily also had Ice Beam, so I didn't feel safe bringing in Penguin. I brought back out Abomasnow, who tanked the hit. Willow went for Razor Leaf, but I didn't account for Whiscash's Rindo Berry, which halved the damage from super effective grass-type attacks. The move did a bit more than half, but Whiscash fired back with Ice Beam, which actually didn't do too much. But on the next turn, for some reason, Whiscash outsped Willow, and since it consumed a berry, it was able to use Belch. Willow did not live the hit. After consideration, I brought in Dad, who finished it off with Shadow Ball. Hippowdon came in, and it took me a minute to figure out my switch. Penguin is obviously the switch, but Hippowdon has Ice Fang. Satan and Big Steve are weak to Earthquake, and Margarita is at low HP. Hoping for the best, I switched to Big Steve. The Earthquake came out, and Dialga barely survived. Weighing my options here and looking at my notes, I felt Dialga was the most expendable. I clicked Roar of Time, hoping for the best, and it KO'd. I defeated Bertha, but we lost Willow along the way. Now obviously, this is terrible, but looking at my notes, if any Pokemon were to go down, it would have had to have been Abomasnow. Its hail was really hard to work with, and its matchups weren't as necessary as some of the others. The main issue is now Cynthia's Garchomp though, as we don't have any Ice-type moves anymore. He sent out Rapidash, and I sent out Margarita, who destroyed it quickly with Waterfall. Steelix came out, and I switched into my own Steelix since it had Thunderfang. I guessed right, and then used Dig, which got their Steelix to about half, but he retaliated with Firefang, which did about a quarter. I then made a smart play, setting up Stealth Rocks to do quick initial damage to his incoming fire types. He went for Firefang again, getting me to about a third, so I made a switch into Big Steve. Firefang would be neutral, but I'm then able to use Special Flamethrower on Steelix, which absolutely kills it. He sent out Lopunny, and I switched to Gengar due to high jump kick. It didn't go for it though, instead opting for Mirror Coat, which sends back double damage after being hit by a special move. This scares me because all of Gengar's moves are special, so predicting the same move again, I go for Confuse Ray, confusing the Lopunny while also staying safe. On the next turn, Lopunny uses Fire Punch, but it gets disabled by Dad's Curse Body. Since Lopunny only has a fighting and a normal move, it had to go for Mirror Coat, so I had a safe switch into any Pokemon. I brought in Penguin, who took it down with Fly. He then sent in Drifblim, who took significant damage from Satan's Stealth Rocks. Penguin used Fly, which knocked it out. Lastly, Flint sent out Infernape, and Staraptor was easily able to OHKO it with Fly, securing us another deathless victory. 2 left. It was time for Lucian, who led with Mr. Mime, and I started with Big Steve, who OHKO'd it with Flash Cannon. He then sent out Medicham, and like the last battle, I switched to Gengar to avoid a high jump kick, and this time it went according to plan. He took 50% recoil damage, and then Gengar finished him off with Shadow Ball. He then sent out Alakazam, and I was confident Gengar would outspeed due to a significant level difference. I was wrong. Psychic from Alakazam, OHKO'd Dad. I was not okay. This is what I get for killing Soup before the 3rd gym. This was also really scary, as having 4 Pokemon for Cynthia is not going to be enough. The run just got significantly harder. This is no time to slow down though, as Alakazam stood right in front of me. I brought out Margarita, who took revenge on the dastardly Alakazam, OHKOing it. Lucian sent out Girafarig, and this is where things went from bad to worse. Margarita's bite didn't kill the Girafarig, and it ended up using Trick Room, something that I wrote in my notes would be absolutely terrible. What's worse is that Girafarig has Thunderbolt, and since I don't outspeed anymore, I had to get Margarita out. I switched in Satan for the Thunderbolt and used Sand Tomb. But since Satan was now faster than Girafarig, it went for Trick Room again, reversing the dimensions back to normal. Steelix's Sand was enough to knock out the Girafarig, and he sent out his closer, Bronzong. Since Bronzong was immune to ground, I had to make a play. I considered switching, but was scared of Gyro Ball on any of my fast Pokemon. I brought in Dialga, who tanked both the Gyro Ball and the Earthquake. Dialga's Flamethrower did the trick, defeating the Bronzong and Lucian. The Elite Four was complete. So now, we have to plan. With no Gengar, we lost our super effective damage on Milotic as well. I contemplated my lead, as Spiritomb had no obvious weaknesses. I wanted to lead Staraptor, but decided not to, as I wanted to preserve her Intimidate for a physical Pokemon who needs it. But, this was it. 24 hours of work. 20 deaths. We entered the room, and it began. The final battle against Cynthia. She sent out Spiritomb, and I sent out Dialga. Spiritomb's pressure made it so all of my moves used double PP, so I had to be careful with my choices. Big Steve used Flash Cannon, which got Spiritomb to about a quarter, though it healed back to half with its Citrus Berry. Spiritomb's Dark Pulse did about a quarter, which was more than I would have liked. I went for another Flash Cannon, but Cynthia switched Spiritomb out for Gastrodon, and didn't take that much damage. Knowing Gastrodon would go for Earthquake, I switched into Staraptor. This was risky though due to Gastrodon's Rock Tomb, but I knew it wouldn't do significant damage if it hit due to Gastrodon's low attack. Penguin's Fly came out and got Gastrodon to about half, meaning it would be a 2-hit KO. The Rock Tomb hit, and luckily only did about an eighth, but scarily lowered my speed. I went for Fly again, assuming I'd have to take another hit of Rock Tomb. Penguin got a critical hit, like the goat that she is. Cynthia sent out her Milotic, and knowing it had Ice Beam, I switched to Margarita. Even though it was a crit, Milotic's Ice Beam didn't do that much to Margarita, but Margarita got frozen, a 1 in 10 chance. So I had no idea what play to make, as now Milotic has boosted defenses due to Flame Orb Marvelous Scale. I looked at my options, and decided the best move was to leave Floatzel in and hope for the best, as I needed my other Pokemon for other counters against Cynthia's. I went for Dig, as it would do more than Bite and would cost Milotic 2 turns of Bone. And astronomically, Floatzel thawed out. Dig came out, and she landed a critical hit, getting Milotic to about half. Milotic unfortunately used Recover, getting back to full. I went for Dig again, and Margarita crit again. Over both turns of Dig, I realized that Milotic used Scald and not Ice Beam, so I was confident in making a switch to Big Steve. Looking at what was left, I made the call that getting rid of Milotic was a priority, and if Dialga fell, Dialga fell. I went for Roar of Time, knocking out the Milotic, but making Dialga take a turn of recovery. In this time, Cynthia sent out Lucario, who was able to KO Big Steve with Aura Sphere. Thank you for your sacrifice, Big Steve. I brought in Margarita, who got Lucario to the red with Dig. On that turn, Lucario luckily went for Nasty Plot, and since I got him to red health, I knew that Cynthia would heal on the next turn. So instead of Dig, I went for Aqua Jet, which got Lucario to 75%. Then on the following turn, since I outsped, I went for the Dig, which knocked it out. If I had gone for Dig on the turn I used Aqua Jet, my Dig wouldn't have KO'd, and I would have taken a Nasty Plot boosted attack from Lucario, which likely would have knocked Margarita out. With Lucario down, Cynthia brought in Roserade, and I switched to Staraptor, who didn't tank Roserade's Energy Ball as well as I thought she would. Penguin OHKO'd the Roserade with Fly, and finished off her Spiritomb just the same. And this was it. The final boss of Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, Cynthia's Garchomp. With Penguin at half health, I made the call that Garchomp would use Swords Dance rather than Dragon Claw, but I predicted incorrectly, and Penguin was devastatingly killed. No time to think about it though, as we had to find a way to take down Garchomp. I sent in Steelix and clicked Sand Tomb. Garchomp obviously outsped, but decided to go for Swords Dance. Satan's Sand Tomb only did about an eighth, but the extra chip damage made it about 3/4. Satan would have definitely been dead this turn, but he had a secret weapon, Sturdy. This allowed me one more hit of definite damage before going down. I also made the smart call to use Sand Tomb and not Dig, as Garchomp's Earthquake would have hit Satan while she was underground. The Earthquake came out, leaving Steelix at 1 HP, and his Sand Tomb plus the chip damage got Garchomp to half. Garchomp knocked out Satan. Even if we lose, you redeemed yourself, buddy. It all came down to this. Margarita came out, looked Garchomp in the eyes, and I hit Waterfall. Margarita did it. Cynthia clapped, telling us that we were the new Sinnoh region champion. She led me down to the Hall of Fame, where each of our Pokemon could be recognized. Big Steve, Penguin, Dad, Margarita, Willow, and Satan. I had become the champion, and successfully completed my first ever full Nuzlocke.
Guys, I'm going into the Hall of Fame. I screamed at the top of my lungs. I was like, oh my god. Dude, the Waterfall fucking crit on Affection. I don't know if it mattered. Holy shit. We fucking did it!
In celebration, I wanted to order plushies of everyone on the team, but coincidentally, the only one in stock on Pokemon Center was Margarita the Floatzel. So, I got him. plus this other Pokemon because I thought it'd be funny. So everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm so proud of how this video turned out, as this is easily the most time and work I've ever put into one of these. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and consider subscribing. But that's all I have for you guys today. So, thank you for watching and embarking on this journey with me.